Hey, what's happening? I'm Myles Kennedy. This is Alive and Loud.
Welcome to Alive and Loud, guys. Today we have a very special guest. It's Mr. Myles Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
It is an absolute honor, sir. So I want to get right to it. You just had a brand new album released May 14th, Ides of March, and I got to do a personal write-up on that album. It was phenomenal. What was the songwriting process like for you on this record?
Well, I had plenty of time. Normally I'm trying to juggle a tour life and all that brings with writing, which is hard because I'm not good at compartmentalizing.
Mm-hmm.
I like usually when I start something, I kind of have to stay in it to finish it.
Yeah.
So this was good in that sense because I was able to, wake up every day and focus on nothing but putting all these songs together. So that was that was nice.
Yeah, you got to focus a lot of time on actually writing things out. I know the album is got it seems like a very personal tone to this record. What was that like for you, having all this downtime and being at home? Like, these songs really feel like they mean a lot to you. I mean, most of everything actually that you've written has meant a lot to you, but in particular with your solo career, this one seems very, very close to the chest. So tell us about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think with this record and the last one, the Year of the Tiger record, when it's a solo thing, it's your chance to really kind of say what you need to say as a solo artist. There's no, in a band realm, there's a certain amount of compromise. Mm-hmm. And so when you have the chance to make a record on your own, it's very personal. And I think the difference between this record and the previous one is that the previous one was informed by situations that happened when I was growing up. And this record was informed by the world now in kind of real time and how that was affecting my family and I, and just seeing how it was affecting everybody and trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the record definitely does mean a lot to me. I mean, every record does to a point, but I definitely was like the first solo record, working through some things, trying to make sense of things. And it becomes like, a cheaper way of dealing with your mental health than going to a therapist. So it's kind of nice in that sense.
Oh yeah. You can put pen to paper and just write it all out.
Absolutely.
So with the actual title track of the Ides of March, that one really, really sticks out to me. There's a very phenomenal guitar piece around the 4-minute mark. Tell me about what it's like, because I know for you, I've seen you on this last Walk the Sky cycle. I saw you about 3 times, St. Louis, Nashville. And I can tell when you're playing the guitar, when you're singing, like you really let it consume you when you're on stage. So that personal touch on this guitar solo, if you would want to put it that way, on the Ides of March, it's got a very melodic, very comfortable feeling. I was listening to it just on the way from Indiana just a little bit ago, and it puts you in a really good state of mind. It's such a nice tone to that. Do you always write pieces or write lyrics and think of like a guitar part in mind, or do you write a guitar part and think of a lyric in mind?
Yeah, it's for me, it's all about the melody. So with that solo that you're referring to, which I appreciate the kind words, that was kind of, and it's funny because that was the demo solo. So when I was putting the demos together, I was just going to leave the solo spots blank, and then before I went to do the little mix, then send it to the guys, I was like, I'm just going to throw a solo down real quick. And I ended up getting so attached to pretty much every solo that I did that way on the record that I just would go back and relearn them for the actual album.
Yeah.
And I remember I don't really even think about it. It's just you're staying in the moment, you're staying present. The chord changes are coming at you, and I'm playing what I'm hearing in my head melodically. But someone did say something once to me that really stuck with me, which I was flattered by it. She said, when you play your leads, it sounds like your vocals. It's like your sense of melody is kind of, I guess the way my brain
Oh,
works,
absolutely.
it's just like there's a certain melodic sense that comes through, and whether I'm using this or whether I'm using
Yeah.
this. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's something I've definitely picked up early on, especially all the way back to like Mayfield 4 days, is that you have this way about you that not a lot of artists these days have. And you've been able to work with Michael Elvis Basquet for many albums with Alter Bridge and your solo career. What was it like? It's got to be like a really inviting feeling to be able to go somewhere that you're real comfortable with, and a producer who is just so in tune with what you want to do. How different was it though with this record, because it's a little bit more amped up than Year of the Tiger? So what was that like in studio for you?
It was great. Anytime I get to work with Elvis is wonderful because he's one of those people in my life, kind of in the orbit, who's become he's like family at this point. And people say that those are empty words sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not. I do feel that way. If something happened to him, I'd be crushed.
Yeah.
So I think that anytime, first of all, I have complete confidence in him, and that's something when you're working with a producer that's really wonderful, because then you don't have to stress about anything. You know that, and I know that guy cares probably more than I do about how the record's going to turn out, which says a lot, because I'm about half crazy when it comes to that stuff. But he's even more so. I mean, he is just, he lives and breathes to make records. And I was talking with somebody recently who'd done a session with him for something. And he said the same thing, because he'd done a few records with him. He goes, the guy is just, no matter what record he's working on, he's in it to win. He's not, he never phones it in. He's just, he loves it that much. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's still working after all these years.
And it reflects on everything that you have been a part of. I've always looked at like the back of a CD to see who produces. And I find myself actually stopping doing that, because I just know if Myles is putting a record out, or if Alter Bridge is putting a record out, I know who's producing it.
Right.
And so I know the sound we're going to get is going to be that level that you and Mark and everyone is comfortable with. I know that it's going to be something that when you have a solo project, that you're extremely comfortable going in there and recording something that's very personal to you, like you said with this record. And by the way, on a side note, I want to say congratulations. I just saw something that you won worldwide solo artist with Planet Rock.
Yeah. Crazy.
Wild.
I think, I'm still really blown away by that one. I don't even know what to say other than thank you to my mother, who probably voted thousands of times.
You gotta shout the mom out. You have to. But no, that's fantastic. Congratulations again on that, because I've seen you multiple times live, and every single time it blows me away. The live vocals versus the recordings. It's just, you go to a concert and you expect things to be different, but with things that I've seen with you live, it's like you're getting something extra when you go to see Myles live. You're getting something that is enhanced. It's enriching the experience that you've recorded. And now you've got it right in front of you. Even at Soundcheck down in Nashville last February, I was blown away. I was like, this guy just has no quit, and that was right around the time this pandemic was kind of coming full circle. I know I actually did the meet and greet with you and the guys, and, instructions were very strict, as they should have been, with, no hugs and no handshakes, because we didn't really know where we were at with this pandemic. And I was like, I totally get that. I was telling another fan, they're like, oh, that sucks. I'm like, hey man, like, you don't want your favorite band to get sick or anything, do you? I'm like, we don't know what's going on with this crazy stuff. So I was like, just be happy they're actually still doing the meet and greet, man. Right. And he's like, yeah, that's a good point.
I appreciate you saying that, because I mean, it's funny, because I'm hardwired. I want to make people happy. I'm a people pleaser. So it's interesting, because the meet and greet thing, and I'm glad actually you brought this up, because something you don't really get to talk about much. But like, look, everybody who knows who's kind of tracked, especially live, I tend to get sick a lot. So this was even before the coronavirus. Like Myles is Myles down again, for whatever reason, and maybe it's just my stress level. Always getting respiratory infections, this, that, and the other. So we figured out, well, okay, when we do these meet and greets, let's just be careful because germs are germs, and the boy in the bubble here is going to end up getting it. So because but then people are like, oh, they think that you're being whatever, and I get it, because it's human contact is such an important thing, right? People want to shake hands, they want to hug, and I do too. Trust me.
Right.
So, but then you're thinking, but if you get sick as a singer, and you said such nice things about going to a show and expecting a certain level as a vocalist from me. Well, when I'm sick, that's not going to happen.
Hey, you're not going to get that. So
yeah, and
you got to
so
protect that fan experience right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you're thinking about it. It's kind of like you're thinking about it from the perspective of you're not going to please everybody, because if the people who come to the meet and greet, they're going to leave bummed because you're not hugging it out.
Yeah.
But then the people who are going to the show and paying to see the show are like, they're bummed because, well, why isn't he hitting that note?
Right.
Or why is he telling us to sing the entire song?
Right.
Because so it's a funny dynamic.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I remember distinctly in Nashville, you had said you were having a kind of a rough day that day, and that seeing the crowd, the way that they were reacting to you guys, had meant a lot to you. That's something that I feel like is lost on a lot of artists, is that you guys really know how to include. You're a very inclusive artist, inviting fans to be a part of a moment that they're never going to be able to replicate again. So what would be like one of your favorite moments on stage, or with maybe a fan interaction that you've had, that you're just like kind of a pinch me moment, like, damn, I really get to do this,
That's tough, because there's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just there's so many moments where you go into it. Look, you wake up and you're tired. You've been on the road for 4 weeks. By a certain point, you're out of shape. You're beat. The road beats you up. And when Lemmy from Motorhead once told me, I was telling him how much I toured, and he basically said, you're going to shorten your life. And that was coming from Lemmy, so it's like, so somebody who is as dedicated to touring as he was, to hear that from him really stuck with me. And so, yeah, sometimes you just get beat up real good. And all it takes is that moment on stage where a fan is, whether they're, just elated, and you can see it, you can sense it, and they're singing every word, and they're just very animated, or if they're crying, or if whatever it is, those are the moments that make you realize what you're doing is not without a purpose. It's you are doing something for, hopefully you're helping another person out, and therefore you see that, and then it comes back to you, and it's part of that give and take. And that is the beauty of this. That is why touring is so important. It's such a beautiful experience, the fellowship of music.
And how great that it's coming back finally.
Thank goodness, right?
I mean, I can't imagine. I'm not a musician. I've never toured for a living. You and all your friends that are in other artists, I'm sure you're going crazy, but it's been nice to have this downtime with your friends and your family and be home in your element and write. But I again, congratulations on live music coming back. That's another big one. So I'm happy that, you actually have something big coming up. I seen you've got Rock Am Ring 2022. Is that right?
Yeah. A bunch of things are starting to come together for next year. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it's all gonna happen.
Well, as long as everybody does their part,
There you go. You got it.
So who are you really looking forward to playing with at this one? Because I believe the lineup's already been announced. And the day that you're playing, my God, there's so much. I wouldn't be able to pick. Like, from your perspective, who are you looking forward to playing with the most?
Geez, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember exactly who all is on the bill that day. I think is Volbeat on that particular day?
I'm fairly certain. I'm going to pull it up. I'm fairly certain Volbeat is on that day. It's
because
such a diverse lineup this year.
really diverse. Well, that's German. That's a lot of Europe festivals in general. They're very, very diverse, which is part of what I love
Yeah.
about touring the festival season over there. Because you can see bands that you normally wouldn't have the opportunity to tour with.
Mm.
But if yeah, I think Volbeat is that day, and I do love those guys. They're great. So we toured with them as Alter Bridge. I don't know, probably 4 years ago, and that was a great tour. I think it
Yeah.
was with
Volbeat
Gojira.
is headlining your day on June 1st or the second. The second. So you got Volbeat, you've got 100 Gex, Airborne, Billy Talent, Black Veil Brides, Bullet for My Valentine, Bush, Daughtry. You've got a stacked day. Pretty Reckless.
Oh, I love those guys.
Pretty
Yeah,
Reckless just
that
actually
was a
put
great
out
thing.
a great record.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean I'm so excited that you're actually getting ready to go back out on tour next year, because I can't imagine what it's been like to be at home and just kind of like, I've seen some of the funny videos that you posted recently, kind of helping out with Steel Panther, doing some of the day countdown videos.
Right. When I
Oh
was
my gosh, that
shoveling horse manure.
yeah, I almost had like looked forward to seeing every video every day. I'd wake up and be like, okay, I got to find the video. What is it going to be today? So have you been like finding yourself walking around, your property at your house and just like taking in the experience of being home? Has that been something that you've really appreciated, being home?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? It's funny because a lot of people they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you've got to be home and it's got to be horrible." But to be totally honest with you, it hasn't. It's actually been necessary for me. This power down.
Yeah.
I was getting kind of burned out at the pace I was rolling for the last decade. So this it's been great for me in that sense. And I've talked with other artists who are like, man, I've reconnected with my friends and my family and they feel rejuvenated. So yeah, you get up and you walk around and you have routines that you follow, which are like, imagine that, waking up in the same bed every day and you can,
You're not in a bunk.
you're not in a bunk and you actually get a little bit of sleep. Wow, that's a novel concept.
Right.
Sleep?
Yeah.
What's that?
Speaking from somebody who tours constantly.
Right. Right. So yeah, and my wife and I, we take this daily walk. We'll walk like 4 miles every day and just the little things. It's great.
Yeah.
It's been great.
And by the way, congratulations again. You just celebrated 18 years with Selena. Is that correct?
Yeah. Isn't that
It's amazing.
It's amazing that it's 18 years already. And it kind of, it's that cliche of time flies when you're having fun.
Oh,
but
no,
it has, yeah. And it's been, look, I have no, Brandon, I have no idea like how the heck I got so lucky with that one. Cause people are always talking about how hard marriage is and it's so much work.
Is. Yeah.
But I hate to say it, like for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just because we basically are the same person. It's funny, when we first started dating, a friend of hers said, you guys are basically the same human being. so it's been pretty easy. I mean, you have a few ups and downs, or we're arguing about which Netflix series we're going to watch that night. Cause she's funny. She likes like scary movies. She loves scary movies. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm like, documentaries. I love watching my YouTube stations and so I'm kind of a nerd that way. But
I mean, same. Look at this thing.
Well, it's fantastic, and I have to commend you on all of your accoutrements in there. I think that's.
I just added Mr. Tom Hanks from Big here.
That's awesome.
Great movie. But no, me and my wife actually just celebrated 8 years a couple months ago. And
awesome.
We're welcoming in our second child any day now. So we're, I get that, it's in what you do and what I do. It's very difficult to find that one person who supports you. And that support is so critical in what we do. So, 18 years of being able to have somebody, a rock to stand on like that, that's just phenomenal, man. And I'm so happy for the both of you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. I'm happy for you.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
And what's great is you know it. A lot of people don't. They take it for granted.
Absolutely.
Man, like I know so many folks who never met that other person, and I'm really grateful that I get to go through life with a partner. It's rad.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. We really wouldn't be able to do it without this support.
Oh yeah.
And I was telling her, I was like, I was so beside myself whenever I spoke with Kevin. I was like, you we're going to talk to Myles. And she's like, I know that that's a big deal for you because, you know, as a songwriter that I really look up to, you've written so many songs by yourself and with Mark that have spoken with me and really helped me along in life, that it is therapy. Like, and I get what you're coming from whenever you say that experience on stage is therapeutic, because, you know, whenever I first heard Blackbird, every time I see it, I cry. Whenever I'm at your show and Blackbird comes on, I don't care if you guys are listening and you're watching right now and you're like, this dude is like just kind of fanboy. And no, if music doesn't change you in a way that you physically are moved, something is wrong with you. Because I watched you from the balcony in St. Louis play Blackbird, lost my fucking mind. I was crying. Saw you in Nashville, Blackbird. I lost my mind. And it's something that is so relevant, you know, with music being gone for so long, live music. I think people really found out that you're missing out on something pivotal in your life. That this huge hole has just been empty for over a year and a half, and now that live shows are back, it's like Christmas morning. Every day you wake up, there's a new tour announcement,
Right.
and it's just like, I'm like, oh man, I gotta shoot this show. I gotta take pictures of this show. It's like, pace yourself.
Right.
So
That's awesome, man.
to say that live shows are back, who would be an artist that you'd love to go just be a spectator at right now?
Oh man. I was actually just thinking about this morning. I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, I'm still kind of a fanboy. I love the new Blackberry Smoke record. It's just,
Oh, it smokes.
oh man, yeah, it smokes. No pun intended, but
Yeah.
it really does. I
It
mean,
does.
it's exceptional, and I had the opportunity to tour with those guys a little bit with Slash and the guys down in South America a few years ago, and they're just wonderful people. And it's funny, I discovered that band on the tour bus years ago. Brian Marshall, Alter Bridge, and I, we were sitting in the bus one afternoon. Everybody was doing whatever, and we were just watching one of those live like concert streaming state. It might have been Access or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it was them at some festival. We're like, who's this band? This was quite a while ago. We're like, who is this band? This is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my first, you know, exposure to Charlie and the Gang.
Oh, what a time.
Yeah, yeah, that's one I would love to see again. There's a really talented young guitar player, and I don't know a ton about him. I started following him on Instagram, but I think I came real late to the party. But Billy Strings is it is ferocious. I mean, like
that man's fingers are possessed. Like,
it's insane.
Yeah.
It's just not fair.
No, it's not. It's not fair.
It's so good. Even my guitar teacher, who's, you know, he's seen everybody, and he was talking to a friend of mine recently, and they went and saw him a little while ago, like a few years ago. And he said that was the best live guitar player he'd ever seen. And I was like, coming from my teacher, Joe. And at the time, he, you know, it was like, Billy couldn't have been, you know,
oh, he was young.
He was young. So yeah, he's a force of nature.
Yeah, he's a guitar prodigy. I don't know. He just came out of left field, and I discovered him on social media as well. And I was just like, what? Because I've seen Mark play live, and that is just unfair. And then I saw Billy Strings in Lexington, Kentucky, and I was like, from me to this microphone from him, and I'm just looking at him like, I don't get how that works, but I'm impressed.
Yeah, he's got that thing, that X factor. It's there.
Oh, it's definitely there. Well, that's great, man. You and I have a lot of similar taste in music, and I want to get into a couple fan questions. Sure. I did a poll on Facebook and Instagram, and I asked people if they had any questions to ask Myles Kennedy, what would they be? So question number one comes from Irina on Instagram, and she asks, Myles, if you wrote a song for your wife, would you write it for only her or for anyone else to hear?
Well, I've written songs that she has heard. I actually wrote a song when I proposed to her Was that how long? It was 19 years ago. It was yeah, 19 years ago. I wrote a song specifically for that moment. So there have been a few along the way. Yeah, I like the idea of having a song that's just, you know,
Private.
yeah, that no one else has heard. So
That's got to
yeah,
be special for her too.
I hope so because I spent quite a bit of time on that song.
Well, hey, it worked. Look at you 18 years later.
It did. I have to admit though, and we talked about that recently. Like the song was pretty cheesy, to be perfectly honest. And maybe that's why no one's heard it. And she said, "Oh, stop it! It was sweet." I'm like, I could never let any fan hear that because they would be like, "That is just
No.
cheeseola." But yeah.
All right. Well, that's a great one. Question number 2 comes from JT. I believe his last name is pronounced Sutek. What are things that inspire you to write the most material?
Um, I think. I mean, if you're talking lyrically, just I just taking the world in, just take whether it's things that are happening to me or other people. I mean, look, you just have to have your antenna up all the time and
Yeah.
and be fearless because a lot of times if you're going to be genuine and honest, sometimes some of that material is not hard to wade through. But then from a musical standpoint, if I'm writing, riffs and chord progressions or whatever on the guitar,
Mm-hmm.
a guitar will do a lot of the inspiring. If a guitar, I've recently, I would say within the last 3 or 4 years, started getting into more vintage instruments. And I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
a few over the years, but never really like the big boys. And I started developing a passion for things like old blackguards and like I found a 58 335 and I used to think that was all kind of like that seems I don't know about all that stuff until I started playing them and realized there are a lot of songs in those guitars. They're like there's it's almost as if there are ghosts. I
Yeah.
don't even know how
Yeah.
to articulate it that will inform you. So that can really be helpful as a writer, especially if the well is dry. But I've also played, you know, $200 guitars that have given me some of my favorite songs. So you just never know.
Yeah. That's great. Question number 3 comes from a band out of Lexington, Kentucky, and the band is called City Awake. And their question is, what is your advice for an unsigned band trying to move their way up?
Well, that's a good question. A lot's changed since I was a young man trying to make his way through the music industry. But with social media now and with your ability to get to potential fans,
Mm-hmm.
it's you don't have to go through the gatekeeper like it used to be. You
Yeah.
used to be you got to get it signed, you have to have a label get behind you. Now, if you develop something that is legit and people connect to it, the algorithm is going to help
Oh,
get
yeah.
that out there. So I, look, at the end of the day, an A&R guy told me this once. He said, "We're not in the music industry; we're in the songwriting industry. It's about the songs. So spend the time, develop that craft, and as in the movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. I do believe that. I believe once you get to that point where you've got the material, and then you just beat the pavement, be it online, be it wherever you are, just get the word out. I know that sounds like a very like
Oh, no,
kind of
no, no.
cliche, but it really is. I've seen it. I've seen it happen.
Yeah. That's a great reply. That's a great. Well, Miles, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to sit down with us here at Alive and Loud magazine and for the podcast Alive and Loud. I can't thank you enough. I know your plate's been full with promoting the new record and getting everything going for getting back out on the road. Congratulations on all your success, my friend. It really is awesome to see. You deserve all of it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Make sure you catch next week's episode. You don't want to miss it.